Now, how do they know which farm did what? Because of those samples that they took at the beginning. Okay? They test each sample. They test each sample for antibiotics. They test each sample for E. coli, for salmonella, for pseudomonas, which is hand and foot disease. All of those things are tested. If that sample comes up bad, then that entire tanker truck is dumped. And the farm responsible for that contamination has to pay for that. If that happens more than 3 times, if it happens 3 times, if that happens more than once, and in some co-ops it's 3 times, then that farmer is no longer allowed to transport milk with that hauler. And they probably have lost their market. So there should be no antibiotics in your milk. If you're milking a goat and she's in antibiotics, the kids can have those antibiotics, but you can't. So dump that milk. And it's important to know that whichever drug you're using, what is the milk withdrawal date of that? How long is that milk expected to stay in the bloodstream, expected to be in the mammary system? Same goes with warmers. You need to know the milk withdrawal. Do not drink anything that comes from a goat who's under a chemical treatment. All right? Now, E. coli, that comes because somebody stepped in a bucket. If a goat steps in the bucket, do not put that milk in your tank. Just dump it out, wash it out, re-sterilize, and come back and finish milking. If that means that all of that doe's milk is done, and sometimes you've got a doe who waits until you've got that bucket all the way full, and then she kicks it over or she steps in it, then that milk is thrown away. You've lost it. You get more in 12 hours. Don't worry about it. Okay? But don't take any risk. Unless you're going to go to trouble of cleaning those hooves out and sterilizing that hoof before you put it up on the milking stand, and hope that every single hoof of every animal on that milking stand was clean before you got it milked, just dump the milk. It's a lot faster. It's a lot safer, okay? Clean it out, wash it out, re-sterilize, and come back and finish milking, okay? That's how you keep E. coli out. We often hear about listeriosis. That's a problem, or listeria. Listeria is an issue. It can cause abortions. It is not common in the dairy world. And when you hear about listeria infections, and most of the time when we hear about people getting sick from milk, it's a listeria infection. Listeria can happen in any machine. It can happen at any point. And there was a case of a farm here in Massachusetts that had a listeria infection, and it was traced to the top of a container of the coffee flavoring that they put in the milk. Listeria can get in the nozzle of something. That milk had been properly pasteurized. That milk was safe. It went through a process where coffee flavoring was added to it, and because there was a listeriosis infection from a plant that put together that coffee flavoring, that whole dairy ultimately went out of business. So make sure that things are very clean so you're not looking at a listeria outbreak. But don't panic about it. And don't throw your milk out. When I milk my goats, I make sure that personally, this is my choice. I used to use bleach on everything. I don't like to use bleach. You can use medical strength hydrogen peroxide. You can use vinegar, but if you don't get it clean, you can use vinegar, but if you don't rinse it sufficiently, you're going to wind up with cheese. Bleach causes dioxin. That's why I don't like to use it. But it is an excellent sanitation vessel. I use a little bit, and I wash out anything that has not just been through the dishwasher. If it's been through the dishwasher, it's been exposed to enough sanitation and enough heat that I think it's safe. But if it's been sitting out on the cupboard for 12 hours, 24 hours, then I'm going to wash and re-sanitize. If I've got a bucket that's so big that it doesn't fit, or it's an odd shape and I can't trust it to get clean, Then I will wash it by hand and I will sterilize it with the bleach or whatever else I have on hand. Okay? I do that before every milking. Now, standard procedure is that you do it again after every milking and you air dry, because towel drying is just going to smear the germs around. You decide how you want to do it. If you're going to publicly sell it, you need to follow the USDA rules, which do say you clean, you sanitize, you air dry. Then you rinse again before you milk again. To me, depends upon where you live, whether that's enough. My feeling is if you're in a place where you have been kicking up a lot of dust, like my husband's out there cleaning up cleaning out the barn right now. If I had something air drying outside, I would re-sterilize it because he's kicking up a lot of E. coli into the air. He's not getting sick from it. I don't want it to grow in the milk. All right? That's just my choice. It's my common sense. You use yours. All right? So, when you've got it all done, your cleanup is really pretty simple. Use cool milk, use cool water, not hot water, not cold water. You don't want to cook that milk on. You want to break up enough fat molecules that you get it off. So cool water to rinse everything that the milk touched. Then wash it up and set it aside. Sterilize if you want to, or sterilize before the next use. Make sure it's sterilized at least once before you use it again. All right? My milk filters, I use cattle milk filters. You can get little busy filters. They're called Busy Bees, and they're about that big. They fit over the opening of a mason jar really well. If you're milking 1 or 2, that's all you need. Some people use coffee filters. I have in the past made my own filters with muslin as an environmental statement. It got to be a bit of a pain. Milk filters are recyclable. They are compostable. So you can think of it, you can do what you want to there. I find coffee filters very slow personally. I like to use a cow filter. And I use a bigger one. My filter is actually almost 12 inches across so that I can dump 2 or 4 pounds of milk in there at one time and it will filter. Whereas before I would have to pour it off a little bit at a time. I get a good foam on the top of mine when I milk. I'd have to wait for the foam to subside. It's a lot easier if I use a bigger filter. But I've got a bigger number of goats than most people have. So that's it for milk handling. It's just a matter of being careful and using common sense, knowing what you're afraid of and getting the answers to those fears, and then figuring out what works best for you. Okay? So that's it for milk. We'll come back in another class, and we'll talk about the next step that you need to worry about, how to use it.